for you. And all you possess. That's what it is. In your satin tights, fighting for your rights. And the red, white, and blue. That doesn't even rhyme. What the Wonder Woman. Well, as you may have guessed, last night I went and saw the new Wonder Woman movie. And my capsule review is, it's alright, you know. Yeah, I didn't fall asleep. I was entertained. You know, it resolved exactly the way I expected it to, because that's how formula movies work. I was sitting there going, okay, this must be Act 3, because here we're going to have the confrontation with the main evil person. And, you know, there's a whole formula. Wait a minute. I'm kind of interested in screenwriting. I've never written a movie that anybody has done, but I've written movie scripts before. So I kind of study this stuff. And it's interesting when you see big Hollywood movies like Wonder Woman, they play out exactly, you know, according to a predetermined timeline that was kind of discovered in the 70s, I think. Maybe when they made Jaws and some of those blockbuster movies. I'm not sure exactly when it started, but by the mid-1980s, you start to see every film fall in line with this particular... Every film, meaning every big-budget blockbuster film, falls in line with this particular formula. In the 90s, it got more and more solidified, and by now, you almost never see a big budget blockbuster movie that bucks this formula. So you can kind of just go like, okay, here's the thing. 12 minutes in, this is just one little thing I'll give you. 12 minutes into the film, you're supposed to state the theme of the film, right? So the first 12 minutes are supposed to be setting up the ordinary world of the main character, and then at minute 12 you state the theme of the film, and then you bring in the antagonist at a certain point, and then you do a little bait and switch thing, which Wonder Woman does, where you think one person is the bad guy, but spoiler alert, forget I said that, and it just follows exactly, boom, 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 just like that. So I don't even know if that's a complaint about a movie like Wonder Woman anymore. I mean, you expect that, and they're going to do that because that's what sells and that's what people like, and, you know, okay, fine. The thing I wanted to say about Wonder Woman from a kind of Buddhist-y standpoint is about compassion, because Wonder Woman, being the female superhero, is supposed to be the compassionate superhero. You know, and not to get all this male versus female thing with it, but, you know, it's not like Superman is lacking compassion. And Superman is compassionate to a fault, just like Wonder Woman is. I mean, the ones who are lacking compassion would be like Batman or maybe Spider-Man. They're sort of morally ambiguous, and that's an interesting thing. But the classic sort of superhero, like a Superman type of character, and who knows, those sorts of characters. I'm kind of drawing a blank. Ultraman in Japan, they're totally compassionate. So Wonder Woman, they kind of pour the compassionate stuff on, you know, really heavy to try to show that she is the compassionate female superhero, which is fine. But what is interesting in the film to me is the kind of compassion that Wonder Woman shows, and the kind that Superman shows, and the male compassionate superhero characters usually show, is what we usually think of as compassion, which is a kind of selective compassion. So I don't think I'm giving away any spoilers here, but if you're super sensitive, maybe turn it off till you see the movie, but I'm going to try to avoid that. She shows, like, real compassion for, like, a baby that she finds, or the town in, I believe it's supposed to be Belgium, that she's trying to save from the evil Germans, who are not the evil Nazi Germans, because this is the World War I Germans, who are not yet Nazis. Wonder Woman's sort of setting things up for the ascension of Hitler, but she's, which is another ironic thing, but she's not fighting against Hitler and the Nazis. So she shows all this compassion for these people, for those people, and for the soldiers who are in the trenches fighting the Germans. But then she jumps out, spoiler alert, I guess, then she jumps out of the one of the trenches, and she's slaughtering, all these German soldiers, just slicing them up with a sword and using her ricochet thingies to bounce bullets into their heads, and she's just killing them. You're just killing them. Blah blah blah. Just so many. She knocks over a tank at one time, wrecks it, and of course there's 2 or 3 people inside that tank. I'm going, whoa, those guys, and this is a kind of selective compassion. Now I know war makes everything very weird in terms of compassion, so I get that, but to me, I'm kind of looking at it going, okay, well, those soldiers those British soldiers and American soldiers and the people she's fighting with in the trenches, okay, they deserve compassion. The German soldiers too, like individual German soldiers, they got conscripted. They didn't really want to go out there on the front and shoot at people, but war kind of forces you into this situation where your job is to kill people. Now that's a terrible job for anybody to have. You don't want anybody to ever get that job of having to kill people. That's a bad job. But you're sort of forced into it. And by the way, I understand that we need a military. So if there's any military people watching this, I'm not against you, because I think you do a very good, very difficult, very necessary job. And I'm sure most of you, especially if you're military people and watch this, you'd probably agree with me that that's a job you don't want anybody to have, that we'd like to have a world where nobody has to have that job. But back to the main point I was trying to make about compassion is, when we're talking about compassion in Buddhism, it's not selective compassion. It's not like you choose the people that you get to be compassionate to, the ones who, for example, the media says are the most suffering people. Then you're compassionate to those people that the media has identified as the ones who suffer the most, but you're not compassionate to the people the media has not identified as suffering. And one example that's playing out right now on social media a lot is there's tons of compassion, for example, for Syrian refugees. Let's just take them as an example. There's all sorts of others. But one type of person that it's really okay for everybody to bash is poor rural white people. And I'm not trying to stand up for the rights of white people or any of that nonsense. That's stupid. But people shit on those people all the time without any sort of feeling of this is ironic or bad, because the media has identified those people as rednecks who are against progress, and so it's okay to shit on those people as much as possible. When I think those people, as well as the Syrian refugees, by the way, deserve our compassion too. So compassion in a Buddhist sense is whoever appears in your life needing help, you provide them with compassion, whether you believe them or not, or whether you agree with them or not. I had an interesting little compassion exchange that might be relevant to this. I have a relative who's having some difficulties and getting into some real problems. Now he has got a good friend. My relative has got a good friend who is, my God, the best example of the racist, misogynist, horrible, Trump-supporting, neo-fascist person you can imagine. If I told you the name that he calls the Obama children, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say it on this channel, what he calls them. He's that kind of a person, but he has been so helpful to me in my dealings with this relative that I realized there's a whole other side, and this compassion thing gets very, very complicated. So that's kind of my take on that. It is interesting though that other characters other than Wonder Woman herself in the film do try to point that out. Steve Trevor is constantly trying to point out to Wonder Woman that it's not just, it's not just about getting rid of the bad guys, because it's all very morally ambiguous once you get into these big conflicts. I think at one point he calls it a shit show, which I don't think was a phrase that they used in the 1910s when World War I was going along, but, whatever. That aside, who cares? So that's just my commentary. Little short video today on Wonder Woman. I ended up liking the film, and I thought it was all right. If you like those big, flashy blockbuster movies with a lot of explosions, I bought an Icy. I haven't had an Icy in years, but I bought the wild cherry flavor Icy and sucked on that for the whole film. So that was fun too. Patreon is on the bottom, and places to donate are on the bottom. I make my living through your donations. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.